All right. We got workshops coming up. Cinematic Relation, live in person in Nashville in April. Exploration is our online cinematic weekend workshop. That's in May. Slackline is here in Nashville in Tennessee in June. Cinematic Life Map is a 2 weekend workshop in August. It's one of the hottest months of the year here in Nashville, so we'll do that one online. And then in October, our big Mysteries 10-day retreat here in Tennessee. So anybody is interested in those, you can go to the events page on the website, sign up. All right. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Megan. Nice to see you. It's been a while. Hi, Elaine, Neil, Mauricio. Hi, Glenn, Hannah, Joe. Joe, how's the book coming along?
Guess what? It's finished.
Congratulations.
But
You're still here.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
Haven't run away yet.
Yeah, there's still time. Just wait till after our first assessment.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say about half of the people do.
What, run away?
Mhm. Yeah. I'm not kidding. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
So how'd you like the book?
Amazing, amazing. I think I do need to go back over it. Certain parts that I skimmed over more than I maybe should have. But yeah, yeah, I was a little bit like speechless at the end because I don't know. I need to, I need to go into more of the deeper stuff. Like I know that the chapter on just stop keeps on coming up quite a lot on these calls and things like that. And even though it's such a basic principle, like I feel like it it really works. Um, need to need to do some more of stopping, I think. But yeah,
I was on a client call a couple hours ago, and I said, what tends to happen is that the more advanced you get, the simpler and simpler and simpler the teachings and concepts are. Um, as new students to pretty much anything, what happens is they're looking for something big and complicated and convoluted and well, I need the 12 rays of the Palladian star system to come down and spin in 18 directions, and if I do that 14 times, then I'm going to be able to channel the wisdom of the ancient ancestors, and then that's going to be the thing that's going to help me unlock the next thing. So then I can go to the grocery store, and after I go to the grocery store, um, I'm exaggerating and being a little tongue in cheek, but even in more sincere, serious studies, um, what tends to happen um, is as you advance and embody principles, concepts, teachings, understandings, you have these experiences, the transmission of the teachings becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. And when I say the word stop or truth or choice or feel or take responsibility, ring a bell to anybody. Okay. So, man, that went over everyone's head. Yeah, the five tenets, right? Yeah. Okay. When I say those words, those five words, what is within me is this deep. That's why when somebody asks a question, like, hey, well, what do you think is how could I just do this in a that I actually have like a 2 week answer, but then I condense that into maybe a 2 hour, 20 minute or 5 minute answer. And part of the reason is because I can feel that a beginner, somebody that's looking for the magic bullet, that's looking for the 5 step formula for enlightenment, that's looking for the 3 movements that they can practice to make all the money in the world, you know, um, the secret nugget that is going to liberate them. It's like, well, I actually can help you. Like, I actually have something, but it's past the screen, past the field of view of knowledge. And what I sort of realized is that when I say the word feel, it means something completely different than what most people mean. And that's why there's a whole chapter about stopping that I literally have to break down stopping because some people hear stop and they think, oh, plug up. Oh, suppress, prevent myself from stop feeling. Oh, that means. And so if you think that's the definition, every time I say this word, you're actually going in the wrong direction. You're actually going away from the truth, away from the healing. And so as the teachings get more advanced and as the um, anyway, I had the perfect word for it. It just didn't want to come. Ooh, now it's going to get me. Anyway, as the person goes along and they embody these things, the transmission, the the understanding of what just that word means becomes deeper and deeper and weightier and weightier and weightier, weightier, weightier. And in the beginning, there's a lot of things to clarify. There's a lot of distortions. There's a lot of traumas. There's a lot of all this stuff going on. There's a lot of noise. As we help students um, lower that noise and get quieter and quieter and stiller, 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 just saying a few words has a much bigger impact than books and books and books. I even have that experience when I go into the field with somebody, and it's hard for me to actually do a lot of talking because I'm in this altered state. And if any of those of you that have experienced that with me, sometimes just little packets of words come up, and then I'm waiting, and then next little packet of words comes out. And when you're plugged into that feeling, when you're connected, it doesn't necessarily mean it's slow, but the noise floor lowers and the signal of the teachings becomes much easier to hear or see or identify or to take in. So the challenge with that is that a beginner comes in and they see, oh, stop, be responsible, make choices, feelings, be, be, what is it called? Radical, whatever it's called, radical, what is it called? Honesty. Yeah, radical honesty. Yeah. They've heard terms like this and say, well, that's just that. Oh, your feelings. Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. And it doesn't seem like anything. It doesn't feel like anything. That's why in one of my pages, on one of the event pages, um, no, the school post, to the uninitiated, This looks like nothing. Oh, some of the handshaking stuff. Oh, shake your hands. Okay. It means nothing to 99.9999% of people. But to me, to some of you, it's the difference between life or death. It reveals everything. It's magical. So this is one of the challenges because as new people come in, on the surface, everything looks like it's basic, it's simple. Partially because I've taken an immense amount of spiritual and psychological concepts and made them practical. I made them into the common tongue of the average person instead of elitist, metaphysical jargon, um, psychology jargon, all of this stuff. We have a mini jargon, but it doesn't sound like, five compound words, these 66 letter words. So on purpose to simplify to their essence, just stop. There's so much in it. But to most people, especially beginners, it sounds like nothing. When you're advanced, you say, "Oh my God. Oh, oh yeah. Yeah, just stop." So the work can be very misleading for a lot of people. Like my dad. Amazing. He helped me edit the book. And one of the great things was my dad is not a self-help person, a spiritual person, none of this stuff. Kind of redneck. And I'm like, this is perfect. Because if I could write a book of this level of work and have him be able to read it and get something from it, I'm like, excellent, great. Um, and so it sort of matched that filter. And the downside is, he's like, "Yeah, your book's great. I don't know why anybody needs to buy it. You learn the stuff before first grade." Um, and it's sort of playfully, but because he's seeing that of like, "Oh, this is common sense. You don't be selfish. Don't keep suffering. Just blah blah blah." And it's like, cool, great, that's fine, perfect. But I'm like, that doesn't like. Elaine's like, "What?" Mauricio's like, "What? Neil? What? There's so much to this. I wish we all learned this stuff before first grade. Um, but there's really, really profound things in here that um, isn't necessarily taught in preschool. So that's how some of the most advanced um, teachings in the world are, right? You hear, if you ever studied Zen or um, like Taoism, in the Tao Te Ching. I should I should go get it here in a minute. Um, very, very simple prose. It's like 10 lines. Each line is like 5 words. That's the whole page. And there's a whole profound teaching in there. To someone who doesn't know, they're just like, all right, yeah, wood on a stream, stream on a wood. Which one is it? It doesn't matter. Okay. I just made that one up. That's Andrew's. Andrew DeJing. Drew DeJing. Um, and a lot of the Zen stories, right, are like that as well. And the whole premise is to strip away, we're stripping away all of the psychological inflation. We're stripping away all the unnecessary complexity. It's like if you go, right, you can go through those processes and they can have great benefits for you, right? Yoga Nidra, Kriya Yoga, all these sorts of things. Cool, amazing, awesome stuff. But just because You breathe through one nostril and breathe through the other nostril doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make more money, you're going to have better relationships, you're going to understand yourself more, you're going to be able to have more joy and pleasure and sensuality in your life. It could be a step, it could be a great adjunct. Um, Nothing against those things. But when someone comes in and they're doing all of this stuff, they said, "Well, I went to this thing and I've been doing this and I went to this place." And da, 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 da. I'm like, well, are you still telling stories? Yeah. Okay. Are you still blaming other people or yourself? Being a victim? Yeah. Okay. Have you stopped anything? No. Right. Have you made a new choice? No. Have you tried moving in a new way? No. Okay. Well, why even go anywhere else? Why even try to move forward? If you haven't even mastered something simple as stopping, why do you need to learn how to do backflips out of an airplane in order to be happy? So, a great example of this is Einstein's formula of relativity, right? E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times speed of light squared. Right? That's like that. Let's see. Uh, E one, two, three, four, five. Five characters, five symbols allows nuclear energy and a nuclear bomb. But what is within each of those letters? Yeah, atomic energy. It's huge. It's massive. But if you're not initiated to that, you'd be like, whatever, just whatever letters. If you're initiated into it, if you're a physicist, nuclear physicist, that is the most powerful, one of the most powerful forces on Earth. You know, it can literally annihilate everything on this planet. Five characters. We all go bye bye forever like that. Or we have unlimited energy like that. So if you ever catch yourself looking for something sexier, looking for something more extravagant, something exciting, inflating, something new, shiny objects, all of this stuff, just go back to the basics. You know, if you still are being a victim, there's no point in going anywhere else, doing anything else until you could stop being a victim. So this is why I tell a lot of my clients, it's like reread the book, read it again, read it again. I'm telling you this thing right now, and you're hearing me like it's the first time you've ever heard it, even though I said it like 8 times in the book. Well, that's okay, right? I'm not being mean to anybody about that. It's just that there's so much in there. So this is your first time reading it, Joe, and a lot of people read it many, 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 many times because each time you read it, you integrate another layer. You integrate another thing. You penetrate something. You embody something. Let's say you do a couple sessions or a few workshops. Everything changes. Like people that have done, let's say, like the 3 intro calls or a workshop, they get to have a direct experience of many of these things, right? The embodiment piece, the feeling piece, feedback, reverse wiring is a big one. So it takes it from the concepts to an actual direct. Oh, that's what it means. Oh, reverse wired. Oh my God, that really? Like the way that I actually move backwards and it, oh my, oh, it's literally, you actually meant it literally in the book. Yes, I meant it literally in the book. That's why I said literally in the book. But you have these, you actually experience it for yourself. So everything that not everything, but as much as I could put into words, I put into the book. Everything else you actually have to experience. So the book is like 10%, just to get people on the same page to even start this process. And for a lot of people, that's very overwhelming. But what we're doing in this work isn't just, oh, you got a few problems. All right, let me help you get rid of your little OCD thing, or oh yeah, I'll help you make a few extra $1,000. No, this is like you want to add zeros to your income, like 100x income. Oh, you want to go from being alone for a decade to finding your soulmate and creating a family. Oh, you want to go from perceiving the entire world as a threat and feeling in danger and feeling like you have no one to trust, or going through the world feeling unsafe, or you are recreating cycles of suffering, or you see the world as a place that doesn't accept you, reject you. All of those things, shifting, all of that stuff, and living in an entirely new way. So, again, when people come in, um, you know, it, tr- the book itself can be overwhelming for a lot of people, but try not to overwhelm people, and just have people start experiencing it and go through it. And a lot of people very quickly see, oh my gosh, this isn't just therapy. This isn't coaching. This isn't um, a spiritual practice. This is like fundamentally reorienting your entire being to your true self, and beginning to move through the world from that. So welcome.
Thanks. Um, it took me a while to book my assessment, but yeah, I've taken the plunge and booked it.
Yeah.
I don't know what will happen afterwards, whether I run away, but
Well,
we'll
you're going
see.
to find out the truth of what's going on for you. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yep,
Yep. Did you do the embodied story exercise yet?
not yet, but I plan to do that
Yeah, cool.
before the assessment.
Yeah, cool. Do it, and maybe next time. Um, well, one fun thing to do is that let's see. Yeah, if you're feeling brave, you're welcome to bring that video to the next call, and we can give you a little feedback. Um, but keep in mind, it'll be public. So
Okay.
if there's
Yeah.
things that you want to keep private, then that isn't going to be for you. But
Okay.
yeah, it's fun if people want to share their videos of their embodied story exercise, and give a few minutes of feedback. Um, it doesn't apply to most of you here, but uh, yeah. Any further insights in the second half of the book? Any questions? Any breakthroughs?
Not currently. I think I need to go through it again.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What?
Sorry. Not at the moment. I haven't got any more questions at the moment, but I'll probably have more questions as like I have my assessment, and I probably need to go through the book again to kind of, do you know when you read something once and it doesn't fully register sometimes?
Mm.
Second time you go through it, it kind of gets a little bit deeper. Like you were saying, there's kind of layers and things. Um, yeah.
Yeah, some people, actually a lot of people tell me they'll get the text version and the audiobook, and that change, sometimes just listening to it sinks it in one way, but then you read it and then something else sinks in better when you read it. So that's something that a lot of people said it was helpful for them, just because it's so big, and you can just start drowning in my suave voice or my poetic words, and you just lose yourself. It's a joke. All right. Anybody else got anything they'd like to ask? Megan?
I
Oh, Elaine, go for it.
I wanted to say I really appreciate how you've simplified everything in your book. And you said the Tao Te Ching is simple, but it's I can sit there and not know what. And so actually, after reading your book, I can understand more of the Tao Te Ching. So I appreciate all your work.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome. That's it's an interesting point. Um,
Because I liked the Tao Te Ching, but I was just lost of how to, I remember one thing it was saying you you undo, or it was something that you're talking about stopping, but it was saying you do less and then
yeah.
you get to do more. And I just was like, I don't get it, but the subtraction and the stopping and it's all of that is what I feel they're talking
Yeah,
about.
so that's where I say, part of uh the nonprofit's mission is um ageless wisdom for the modern mind, right? And so it's like, how do we take these ancient principles? Nobody's fucking carrying water around, no, some of these old metaphors. I love, I dig it. I mean, I'm all about it. Um, but for a lot of people, it's like yourself, what the fuck does that mean? And so if I say something just like, well, just stop. So I make it applicable, right? So I say in the book, practical and applicable in the introduction. How do you actually apply it? The Bible, Tao Te Ching, many of these spiritual texts and teachings, they're parables, they're stories, they're metaphors. There's um, a lot of this stuff in it. Very, very few of them are like, all right, step one, do this. This is what it means when you're doing this, right? It's because, as Jesus said, I always butcher this phrase. I really got to get it right. But it's, for others I speak in parables. For you, I tell you directly. And that's kind of what this work is, right? What piercing the veil, right? Piercing the veil, behind the parables, behind the metaphor, behind the story. How do you actually do it? What is that actually? What is the shadow? How do you actually get in a relationship with it? And then having the somatic work, the movement work, is just like the most incredible tie-in because it's the bridge between heaven and earth. It's the bridge between as above and so below. It's the bridge between your inner psychology and your external results. And so this body is just like the most incredible instrument ever. And being able to see the mythologies and the stories and the archetypes that show up in the body give us direct access to the subconscious. And then through that, um, and the field, into the superconscious. Um, but what does that mean? What does it actually do to your life? How does that help you have more wealth and abundance from a place of truth and love and authenticity, not selling out or being greedy or any of this stuff? And then how do you have love and great sex without it being perverted or without it being prude? How do you have relationships without being standoff-ish? How do you lower your guard and drop the shield, but also have boundaries and stay safe and protect yourself? All of these different things. There's very few, there's very few things out there that actually lay it all out, and then have a way uh, to practice, to actually do something, to actually create change. Most stuff is just like, here's this information. If you go into YouTube, if you go to read books, if you go to listen to most spiritual teachers, gurus, most of it is just information. Most of these people aren't actually doing work. I don't have a better word for it. Therapy, healing. They're not actually, you don't go to an Eckhart Tolle conference and you're actually fucking doing therapy and releasing fucking and your shadow material, and you might have some epiphanies that create something, some change. But most of these people aren't actually changing. You're not healing. You're not actually having real breakthroughs. You can have an intellectual breakthrough with more data and information. Great. Does it change your bank account? Does it reduce your suffering? Does it heal the trauma? Does it help you heal and learn from being abused as a child? Most of it doesn't. And so this work is the combination between healing, right? All of the stuff that's happened in our life that's stuck in us, that's holding us back and keeping us in suffering, um, becoming more functional, right? So it's one thing to just heal. It's another thing to, okay, great, I've healed all this stuff, but it doesn't necessarily mean now I can make more money or attract a partner or be a great parent, right? So actually becoming more functional. And then third, right, a path of mysticism, of awakening, of enlightenment, the spiritual path. Um, and so this is the only philosophy. This is the only modality that really does all of those three with proof, with evidence, with actually you can actually verify this happens. You feel somebody, you look at their movements, you feel them in their body, you see their bank account, you look at their relationships, you feel them, how they show up. And so not only does it do all those three things, but there's a process to diagnose all of them. There's a way to um, do something about it to create change, and the third to verify it. Um, and so the book is one aspect. Uh, the book is kind of a general overview. Systematics is one specific path. We also do the symbolism work, dream work, um, and other things later on. So yeah, but it's it's just I was speaking with my client about this of just how there's so much. It's like a imagine a field and you see one mushroom coming out of this like 10-acre field, but below it is 10 acres of mycelium, and there's this entire organism underneath it that's just ready to pop out a bajillion mushrooms, or an iceberg. You just see the 10%. Oh, that's pretty big. Yeah, but then if you go underwater, that's where most of it is. Um, and that's the same for you, and that's the same for your own life, all of you.
Andrew, I have a question.
Great. I'm so glad someone has a question and I can
Um,
answer it.
I was rereading the chapter on narcissism, and I was wondering if you could elaborate on narcissistic supply.
Yes. What would you like to know?
I feel like just hearing you talk about it a little more would deepen my understanding about it. It feels very relevant for me, and I can see how it's showing up in my life. But I just feel like I
Oh,
would,
you just want me to talk about it? Great.
yes,
Sure.
thank you.
Yes. So narcissistic supply, it goes with objectification, right? Because the narcissist avoids vulnerability and intimacy, the narcissist can not let others in to meet his or her needs. So what happens instead, or as a part of this process, is the narcissist lives their life through the narcissistic image. It's an image they have of themselves rather than who they really are, and or also their true self. The narcissist doesn't feel that who they really are is enough or lovable. And so it creates an image, an idealized image of itself, that it tries to live up to or convince other people that they really are. So there's oftentimes, imposter syndrome, feeling like a fraud, something like that for people that are a little bit more conscious. So in order to maintain the narcissistic image, narcissist needs something to supply that. And so that happens to be other people. But you can't use other people because people are people and not objects. So the narcissist has to degrade, to objectify people and turn them into real people, turn them from real people into objects, because you can use objects. Objects are there to use. Right? This is an object. It's not a person. I use it. It's a pen. That's great. Wonderful. Glenn is a person. He's not an object. I don't use him. I can't use him because he's a person. Right? But if I wanted to use him, I'd have to turn him to an object. I'd have to objectify him. Give him use. Give him utility. And then I say, all right, Glenn, this is how you're useful to me. So now you have value in my life. You don't have value being a person. That's not valuable to me. It doesn't help my image. It doesn't advance me or my image. So you have to have use or utility to me. And if you do, then great, I'll keep you around and use you as supply, right? So then whatever use you have then becomes my source of fuel, energy, validation, whatever it is, whatever the use is, right? So maybe he's really nice and he just agrees with everything I say. All right, okay, well, he has a use. He does this. Maybe he lends me money every time I ask him because I'm late on my bills. Maybe he's uh, overweight and it makes me feel better being skinnier next to him because he's overweight, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are a bit more benign ones. There's much more diabolical ones. So that then becomes a person who's objectified into an object who's then used, that then acts as a supply to reinforce the narcissistic image. And so all of that's done to avoid the vulnerability and intimacy and all of this other stuff that goes along with letting somebody in to meet those needs. Right? So we have a need to, let's say, be seen. Well, but the narcissist is running a need to be seen in a specific way and have others see him in a specific way for a specific reason, which is different than just being seen. And so most people aren't going to freely fuel somebody's ego. right? Stroke their ego. That doesn't last too long. So the narcissist has to objectify and then use and then kind of find a way to get that supply from that person, usually through some sort of abuse, covertly, overtly, however way. The need, the true need of the person gets co-opted and distorted through the prism of the narcissistic image. And instead of the vulnerability and intimacy and surrender and trust that's required to let somebody in and see who that person really is, that all gets blocked and it gets turned into, I need you to see me in a certain way in order for me to feel okay about myself or whatever it is. So it gets distorted into this it's a persona, and into this mask, into the image is the object of affection. And so in a certain way, the narcissist tends to objectify themselves. Uh, and the object of love, the false idol that begins to be worshipped is the narcissistic image, the persona, the mask. And so the supply that's used, that is taken, um, if you're in a codependent relationship, then there can be, there's sort of a manipulative, very abusive permission kind of given. Someone that sticks around in this because they're martyring themselves or whatever. It's, freely given, but it's just all very abusive. Because that doesn't happen, these people tend to go from person to person until the well dries up. Right? If you've ever been in a relationship or been on dates with people that as soon as you stop telling them what they want to hear, they're gone, or you stop whatever it is. You stop giving them the money. You stop buying all their stuff for them. Whatever it is. They go on to the next. Again, these are all very basic examples. It can become much more abusive and sinister. So the consequences of this is that even if through all of that work, the narcissist develops this most beautiful image and everybody loves that image, even if that happens, there's a major issue, which is the image is not real. And nothing real is lovable. Nothing unreal is lovable. Excuse me. Very important distinction. Let me say that again. Nothing unreal is lovable. You can't love something that isn't real.
But can you elaborate as well, Andrew, on
Yeah,
how?
hold on, Neil. Hold on.
Oh,
Let
I'm
me.
sorry.
I'm monologuing. Let me
Sorry.
finish. You asked for it. Let me do it. um. Uh, just because now I'm off the track. Um. Narcissistic image, unlovable, right? So even if that image has all the attention, it does everything it's meant to, what's being loved is this false idol. It's something that's unlovable. So that person is never actually going to be seen. They're always going to feel like nobody really, 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 at the core, deepest part of it, because it's all about the image. And so even through all of that, the narcissist needs, the true needs never actually get met. So it's a massive amount of energy. It's a massive amount of manipulation. All of this stuff really to avoid being vulnerable, being honest, um, exposing their shadows. All of the stuff that we're doing here is in direct opposition to the agendas of a narcissist. So it's a very, very, very convoluted, exhausting, abusive, blah, 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 blah way to, if you really boil it down, to avoid intimacy and vulnerability and surrender and all those sorts of things. So it's a way to get the needs met without actually doing what's required to let other people in to meet those needs. So they have to do it themselves. And so they're out. This is why when we do the needs panel and the cinesomatic needs panel, we have both a show me meeting your own needs and show me other people meeting your needs. And so we have those two things, and they're very, very distinct. Because there's a lot of people that seem like they're getting their needs met, but they can only do it themselves. Doesn't necessarily mean they're a narcissist, but it's an aspect that plays into it too. So again, right, something that sounds like a simple question, narcissistic supply, but you guys get the sense that there's a whole depth and breadth to what's behind that, how it works. And if you want to know how I know all about this, it's because that was me. Not narcissistic personality, borderline, whatever the fuck it is. I would never clinically diagnosed or anything, but everything I just talked about, oh my gosh, yeah. And I've done that to myself. So I've also objectified myself as part of that whole dynamic to become valuable. So I objectified myself because I felt invaluable. How did I become valuable? Well, I need to have a use. I need to be useful, right? Well, if I can be useful enough, whatever way, give enough value to my clients, make enough money, give women enough orgasms, have enough friends, be a good leader, whatever it is. I objectified myself in order to be an object, no, to be an object that has a use, in order to have value, to be validated and desired. And yeah, it was, I did, it worked, but at the expense that's not what makes somebody lovable. It can help, their value in society, but it has nothing to do with my inherent lovability. So there you go. What do you got, Neil?
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Could you also please elaborate on how it feels in the moment, in the present, how the narcissism feels in the present? Because something that I feel into when I'm not in feeling and I'm not in connection, I will notice that I will speak and I can't feel the other person while I'm speaking, or I can't feel the space. Sometimes I can, but a lot of the times I notice I can't, and it feels like I'm objectifying them, or it feels like I'm doing something that's narcissistic. So I guess I was just curious about how you feel through these things because I noticed this in so many conversations, and I want to make the choice to stop. And one of the things that you've mentioned to me before that is helping me is feeling into the needs of the other person, and like feeling into what that person wants, instead of just driving your agenda. Yeah, I guess I wanted to better get a better feel of how you feel into, in the moment, with in connection with others, not being narcissistic.
Well, a good place to start is with what narcissism avoids. Vulnerability, intimacy, um, being exposed. So um, I mean, really, the best thing is not in the moment. Is kind of the not being there to begin with. But to identify in the moment if you're being narcissistic, the obvious one, are you making it all about you? Or are you making it all about you by not making it about you? Right? That's kind of what, Chi was talking about on the fellowship call, right? The self-conscious of it's just all about her. That's not narcissistic, but these these things of the self-consciousness of who, because when you get into the place, when you're plugged in, that question isn't there. Um, and so one of the things, like when I've been working with Hannah, a lot of the things that comes up is my way, her way, whose way, my turn, tit for tat, this way. And so it's always constantly, well, you've talked for this amount of time, I need to be able to talk for this amount of time, and there's just always that kind of thing. And that happens because she's not aligned to the one voice. It's still a competition. There's still somebody else out there. It's still duality. It's still separate. If you can hear your voice through somebody else while they're talking, who cares about turns? Who cares about who's whose or what's what? That's why I'll read whatever religion, whatever teacher. If I hear that, if I hear truth coming through, I hear myself. I read books and it's like, I'm like, I could have wrote that. Not because I'm ego, right? But because it's like, oh, that when you're plugged into that, um, there's no competition. There's no my needs, their needs, who's is first or this or that. Um, there's no concern about being exposed because you're looking at a mirror. So a lot of those things just go away. Now, the struggle is finding somebody that is speaking from that place. There's few people that have enough of this cleared out so that so that they have enough resonance and openness and clarity of their vessel for a clear transmission, you could call it. I don't mean in some sort of channeling way, but just like a really, nah, it's not quite the same. Um, but a lot, not, it's not the same thing, but as far as experience goes, um, on the fellowship, um, when Alec made that shift and it felt like his voice opened up, it felt like this tunnel. We had a completely different access to him. Um, those are the kind of experiences where you can have this complete different feeling of the dynamic going on. And when you have things like that, there's there's none of this noise. But the problem is doing the narcissistic stuff prevents that thing from happening. So if those things aren't happening, then there's an indicator that either or. Um, Now it doesn't mean the other. You're going to have a challenge in the modern Western world, really, to find people that are that clear. So it's really on you to have that clarity in yourself. So when they're doing their stuff, it doesn't take you out. You just, oh, okay. And so even deeper, as I do as a facilitator, I can see and feel through. I can feel their true self. I can see past all of their stuff, and hold them in that space, which creates a lot of healing. Um, so again, there's a lot to it. Um, One of the challenges is that in the moment, if you're in narcissism, you're in it. You're not really observing for both people. There is an agenda. You're being ran by the mask. Um, so you can ask yourself a few questions. Am I hiding something? Do I want this person to see me in a certain way? Ask these questions based off of everything that I've just said. Am I trying to get this person to see me a certain way? Am I trying to be seen a certain way for myself? Um, am I trying to see them in a certain way or get them to do a certain thing, something like that? Um, am I not feeling? Am I avoiding intimacy? Am I thinking about how this person benefits me? Am I thinking about how this moment benefits me? Am I thinking about how these interactions move my life forward? Right? So even using the space doesn't just have to be people. Using the space and um, the thing that is happening, right? You can objectify dancing. How do I use dancing to become more attractive partner? It's for all the wrong reasons. Welcome, just in time to end the call.
I thought you guys wanted me to dance, and I was ready.
Oh yeah,
I heard about dancing.
took you an hour to get ready to dance, huh?
Is this really the end of the call?
Yeah, yeah, we've been here for an
Oh
hour.
my goodness. I got my time zones mixed up again. Did you guys have daylight savings
Yeah.
revoked?
Did you not realize that you were an hour late for the call on the fellowship
No,
yesterday?
no, I didn't.
Oh yeah,
Actually.
yeah, you were an hour and 10 minutes late.
Oh my goodness. And no wonder you're talking about, we went an hour over. I had no idea what you were talking about. Ah, bugger. All right.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. Now you
Apologies,
know.
everyone, for coming late and showing up late. That was my error.
Well, good thing we only talked about you for a little bit.
As long as you talk about me.
Yeah. We had a great conversation about narcissism. So.
Hmm.
So what are you hearing, Neil?
Thank you, Andrew. That was very helpful. Yes, and thank you for bringing the other person element into it when they're being narcissistic, and it's really hard sometimes to not take myself out or get roped into playing their game.
Yeah,
So
one of the best things if you're just with a narcissist is stop. It's just do not engage. do not pass go, do not collect $200. You just stop. You just do not offer them the supply.
Yeah, that's something else too that I felt into recently with just an Uber driver. I mean, it was strange. The moment I encountered them, I felt the energy. I knew something was off, like something is wrong. And then I started talking, but it was just engaged in more conversation, and I just felt worse and worse and worse through it. And I realized now that, oh, okay, I was narcissistic supply.
Yeah. If you feel drained and emptied,
Yeah. Hmm.
and they feel better, that's a problem. If you're both feeling drained, that could be you guys having just an exhausting conversation. But if you
Hmm.
constantly feel like they're propping themselves up, or if you feel used, drained can be good. Um, but you can't just say every time you have a draining conversation that must be a narcissism. But
Hmm.
if you feel used, right? If you feel like they just talked for an hour and it was all about them, and you were their um, captive audience just so they could hear themselves talk, that could be a problem. Um, if you feel used, um, yeah, I mean, if you're just with somebody and you're just constantly feeling like they're siphoning off of you,
What
that's
it was, yeah, what it was in that particular instance was I could feel that their line of questioning was trying to affirm their own life experiences.
mm, mm,
And we were talking about, I think, relationships or something, and their image. And and then it started to feel like, oh, they're trying to get me to like them.
mm.
And then it felt like a manipulation,
Yeah,
even though I could feel right from the start that they didn't want to be here. Like they were just freaking tired of driving around, and they just didn't want to talk, and I could feel that at the start of it. But as we went further and further, and then I felt the manipulation. I felt them trying to end it with getting me to like them, and then you just feel like drained by the end of it. And I'm like, that was just an Uber ride. Like that
yeah,
that was not that big of a deal. Why do I feel this crappy? Oh, okay. I just got sucked into narcissistic supply.
yeah, yeah. That's a good example.
I just have to remember just not to engage, and or have a better boundary about that next
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Boundaries are very important.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, you can. I mean, for myself, I can see it and smell it, and I can work with it, and I can I can do a little dance with the devil.
You play with
Um,
them.
yeah, yeah. But I don't recommend it. I mean,
Yeah.
give yourself, 10 years of this work, and then, maybe best chance is to, um, just not give them what they want. You can still like have a conversation, but you feel the manipulation and you just don't bite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, my life is ending. Oh, how are you gonna end it? Huh? You can again, I don't recommend it. Um, but they're feeding off of your pity. Oh my God, what's wrong? Tell me, no, you're okay, right? It's this manipulation, the rescuing, all this stuff. Um, yeah, it's not, there's some very not politically correct things you can do. Again, on the record, I don't recommend it. I just don't, because most people who are narcissists have been doing it for a much longer time than you've been aware. Um, so it's just not worth doing. Um, you know,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thanks for the fun questions. It's nice having fun questions. All right. Anybody else? Oh, Elaine, what happened? You always forget that nighttime happens and your room is pitch dark. Yeah. And it looks just as dark. Amazing. We can't hear you. You're muted.
I was looking at different lights, so I am going to invest in some like lights that give off natural like sunlight quality.
Okay.
Help.
Yeah. So just because you're a client, just a little feedback of just noticing that, every time we have these group calls, you just aren't aware of you getting dark and
Yes, I do need to work on that. I am going to get some better lights.
no, it's just paying attention. You're just not
Oh,
aware that you're going and fading into the darkness.
yeah.
So as a reference point, I'm able to manage 50 squares of people, and I can see in every square I know who wants to talk, who doesn't want to talk, who's running this, who's manipulating, who's Mauricio has to go, right? All this stuff. I um so it's just, a reference point of, there's people that can't even manage their self, right? It's, give them a task and it's like you can't even, just not aware of what's happening or your own square on the screen, let alone, running a workshop, with 5 people or 50 people. Um, and so as you do this, you start having more and more bandwidth. You start increasing your range. Um, but yeah. And sometimes what happens is that we just get lost into whatever's happening. But that means that our observer's not on. We're not aware of what's happening.
And I think I am avoiding even looking at my own square. So,
Well, that would make sense based off the intensive. Yeah. Yeah, you're not even looking at yourself.
no. Well, I'm just like, well,
All I do is stare at myself. I'm just staring at myself all the time.
maybe the camera isn't at the right angle. But
You just
yeah.
hear all that story, all that drama, all that suffering. You know.
That's like that scene in that movie. What's that movie? Neighbors. The comedy Neighbors, where Seth Rogen's like FaceTiming with a girl, and she's like, "Who?" She's like, "He's like, who are you looking at right now?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm looking at myself. Who looks at the other person when they're FaceTime?" Yeah, Elaine, I like would hide my tile sometimes on Zoom because I found that I was like looking at myself too much, and I'm like, okay, I gotta stop looking at myself, and then I hit it. But then once I hit it, then I'm just like, well, but I kind of want to check how I'm looking like, and so now now I don't hide it. So
Yeah,
mean,
when
I
I
feel weird if I do need to adjust something, I feel weird adjusting it in the moment, I
why?
guess. Um,
Oh my God,
because it,
everybody. Oh my God. Elaine's being so weird. She's turning her lights on when it's dark. Everybody, she is such a weirdo. Oh my God.
yeah, why? That is weird.
She is getting out of her chair to turn the lights on so we can see her. Let's all point and laugh. Ha 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 ha.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Interesting.
That is.
I mean, it's not like you're leaving the room and going off, having a bite of an ice cream, in the freezer and coming back 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I need right now? Sunset. I want that frozen Snicker bar in the fridge. Oh, hey guys, I'm back. Did you make fun of me?
Mm.
No, you're just turning your lights on.
I wanted to share some news of me feeling that I have some little sprouts coming up. They have the
Hold
first
on.
leaf.
Is this a metaphor or is this real?
Yes, this is a metaphor. This
Okay.
isn't.
Okay.
So, or, lawn grass.
You do run a health food store, so when sprouts are edible, I don't. So
Oh,
I actually was making a joke because I thought you were being literal, but I'm glad I asked because it's a metaphor. Okay.
yes. So I have been talking about in the Awaken call how been having hard times with my older two daughters. And recently I have apologized to both of them. And in the last 3 days or so, I had like just really hard suffering that I wanted to enter into. It was just so much because I felt that I had failed my girls, that they wouldn't accept my apology, and I just wanted to die. I mean, it just felt, how can I be in this situation? I mean, how did I create this? And today it I so I had in the group that I painted a wall, and I painted my kitchen today as well. And I told my older daughter because she hadn't seen him, and she actually came up with me to see the paint job. And then we went outside, and she had to go to work, and I just gave her a big hug, and she held on to me. It's just like, oh my God, just these tiny little micro. It's just like the sprout just coming up. And then my younger daughter, it's the same way. It's almost in a, and with her, I thought I had messed up on the apology because she just didn't seem like she had taken in any of it. But today I said, well, I'd love to go somewhere with you, if you have time. And she said, I don't have time today, but I'll let you know. She actually looked at my t-shirt. What are you wearing, Mom? It's just this interest, which it's just been devoid in my life for, I can't, if it's either a year or 6 months. I mean, it's probably been a year that they've actually been interested. So I am just, and one thing that I thought maybe, and I'm trying to speak different too. So I might try it out on you guys, trying to feel the words come through.
No, stop trying, just do it.
Okay. When I was feeling all that suffering, I was thinking what you were talking about last night, how when you are on the verge of breaking through, it's going to feel like, you're going to die. And I was feeling that, and I was wondering if I was picking up from my daughters what maybe they were feeling their breakthrough. I'm not sure on that, but it was just interesting to think that could be something, the connection between the daughters and the mom.
Yeah, it's important to keep in mind that you are doing one of the most accelerated healing and transformation paths that exist. And your family is doing about none and maybe even negative with the therapist. It sounds like it might actually make things worse. So just keep, you, you, they've been in this suffering for as long as they've been alive. Um, you've been doing this for longer than they've been alive. So this is all they know. Um, and so you are showing up in very different ways, and they probably consciously don't really know what to make of it or even recognize it, or it's just probably not computing as much as we can see it here because we can see. They're still blinded. They're still being brainwashed. And so you just keep that in mind so you don't go into the suffering. And so you also don't have an expectation that they're going to have the same sort of breakthroughs as you do. They're probably not until they do some sort of real healing work. Because we're talking about a decade and a half of this is all they've known. Um, and so it's amazing what these little sprouts. It's amazing these little cracks. Um, and just make sure that you're not setting expectations that you're you, you don't want to start inflating it and get excited that because
Yeah.
next week they might say you're full of hate again. So just keep in mind that your context is completely different than anyone else around you and in your family at this point. um yeah.
Yeah. It does give me fuel to keep going,
Excellent. Yes.
but I'll keep it at that and not expect or just, I'll just watch the little plants grow.
Yeah, exactly.
Good for them.
Elaine, I wanted to share something um, that might give you long-term hope here from my own experience. When I was growing up, I hated my mom. My dad's very narcissistic, but he's also very educated, and my mom doesn't have, she didn't even finish high school. So he would always interrupt her, and he'd always have reasoning, very good reasoning, while my mom leads with feeling. And I it wasn't until later that I realized that, oh, my dad's very narcissistic. I was being manipulated to his side. And then they would pit us, like subtly, my dad would be getting us on his side. Look at your mom, like what, like she's just doing all this stuff. And when I went off to college, I truly saw my mom as being, oh my gosh, she's a mess, she's chaotic, my dad's the reasonable one. And as I went in my 20s, like it just flipped. And today it's completely flipped because I've just realized that my mom does not manipulate me. Yes, is she a mess with her feelings and act out, in her anger, and is she shouting a lot? Yeah. But she's not manipulating me. Like her love doesn't come with manipulation. She just loves. She doesn't tell me what to do or try to control me. My dad is narcissistically manipulating the whole family into his image of himself and his family, and has isolated himself as a result. And so, but it wasn't until, it's not until today that I can see it all for what it really is. So I guess my words of hope are love wins,
Yeah.
not manipulating and being true and showing your light that you are, it wins in the long way. It will bring them to you.
Thank you, Neil. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's just funny because they tell me that I'm manipulating and that I hate, so I don't know.
Well, yeah, but that's how it was when we were younger. I mean, like when my mom, we have a thing, right? Like there'd be an argument, and my mom's the one who's shouting and shouting and shouting, right? And so obviously, you look at that and you're like, this woman's insane. Like, what's going on? Like, she's not reasonable. My dad's being very reasonable. And it wasn't until later that I realized, oh my gosh, my dad, has no respect for her,
Baiting
doesn't
her, manipulating.
is baiting her, manipulating her, interrupting her, doesn't take, has no feeling of her needs, isn't catering to her needs. Like all throughout our childhood, he never cooked a single meal for us. Like that was the woman's job, you know, my mom's job. He never like uh uh drove us to any like things as kids that we needed to do that. My mom did all that. But despite all of that, my dad still managed to convince me energetically that she was the bad guy. And and it wasn't until I got older that I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, and I can see through all his manipulation, but it's embedded in my whole family now, my sister, and like, you know, he runs it in a whole manipulating game. Yeah. But I don't play his game anymore.
So happy for you, Neil.
Thank you, Elaine. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
All right. Any last words, Megan or Glenn? No.
I'll just say I'm really happy for you too, Elaine. And I'm really excited to see just the long term effects of all that you're doing, you know, because and your girls have the rest of your lives together. And I know you're just setting such an incredible foundation. Um, and I'm happy, and I'll be happy to see how things continue to unfold and blossom.
Year after year, decades, yeah.
Yeah. And even like your grandkids, like, oh my God, what an amazing grandmother. Like all the wisdom that you will have to share with them. It's so amazing.
Yeah, I thank you, Hannah. I am so grateful to have found this work. It's just, I was just reading the book today and just, it's so good. And there's so much to it. And I'm so, so grateful.
Well, we're
Such
grateful to
good.
have you.
Sorry, I just had a quick hello, everyone. A quick
All right.
thing came to mind. That just I don't know. I feel like saying it. When I was younger, all I wanted was for my parents to be happy. You know, I didn't care if they were together, divorced, or not. My mum was, you know, emotionally volatile. My dad was kind of narcissistic and controlling. Standard story. But all I wanted was for them to be happier. So I would dare say that applies for all children. So your daughters, you know, seeing you as you become and evolve, I think that has a very powerful effect. I just wanted my mum to be happy, you know, whatever she did, however she did, that's all I wished for her, because that would take the load off me, you know, worrying and feeling over responsible as well. But I just wanted her to be happy. So I just thought I'd say that because it came to mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. I'm glad to see you on here. It's been a while.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see some of you next Wednesday and see some of you next Thursday. Have a great weekend.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Yeah.
Good night.